all know me. This is my bio. But basically, I started this series because we were walking through how to deal with COVID, and I thought that we weren't the only small business out there that was dealing with this. Globally, every small business is dealing with this. And so over the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about relief resources and what the economy is going to do and how to start beginning your planning for recovery. This week, I'm going to kind of continue that and update it based on what's happened in the economy in terms of relief, and then also just in terms of the state of Florida and the beginning of the reopening and what that means for both rising tide and then for small businesses generally. So current state of federal relief funds. At the end of April, Congress approved, what people are calling the 3.5 Act, which added additional money to Paycheck Protection Program, added another $310 billion, then also added another $10 billion to the EIDL funding, which was doing the advanced loan funding. The Act also had $75 billion in it for hospitals and $25 billion in it for increased testing. That's important because, as we'll discuss in a little while, the increased testing is part of kind of the analysis of when we are shifting from phase to phase in the reopening plans in Florida. Right now in Congress, the Relief Act 4.0 is still being negotiated. The big hangup is that even moderate Democrats are getting a little queasy with the fact that our deficit now exceeds $3 trillion. That's a bit of a nut to have to carry forward. So that may not come as quickly as the House leadership had supposedly said it was going to come this week. I don't think it's going to come this week. Okay. So other funds that are still out there. City of St. Petersburg has opened the second round of the Fighting Chance Fund for qualifying businesses and expanded it to include businesses that are based in co-work spaces. So Rising Tide members who office with us now are eligible if they were already an eligible business in terms of their NAICS code. Pinellas Cares Small Business Grants, and the link is on the screen and we'll be emailing this out, is a $5,000 grant that's available to businesses with 1 to 25 employees in Pinellas County affected by the emergency declaration. It's a lot broader than the City of St. Pete Fighting Chance Fund in that it's not limited to hotels and restaurants and bars, but basically any non-essential business that was affected by the declaration can apply. Again, if you have an address at Rising Tide, it appears that you will be eligible and qualified for that grant program. It is a grant program. You will not have to pay back. There are certain things that you can't have. You need to document that you have losses, and you can't have had a felony in the last 2 years, and you can't have any code enforcement liens outstanding against you in your building. But that seems to be a good potential source for Pinellas County businesses. And then the Verizon grant, which I've talked about on other segments of this, is opening its third round May 14th. That literally closes. If you plan to apply, you should be awake at 12:01 on May 14th because it literally usually closes within 6 or 8 hours of the opening. But nonetheless, it's $10,000, so it's worth looking at. Okay, so the governor has announced the Florida reopening plan. It has 3 phases. In the slide is a link to the full report that has all of the details in it. I'm going to skim through it, but basically we're in phase 1. So bars, gyms, movie theaters remain closed. Restaurants and retail operations are operating at 25% capacity interior and 100% capacity in the outdoor spaces. State parks have limited reopening with daytime hours, and I can say based on my Mother's Day hike, no bathrooms. Vulnerable populations continue to be protected and encouraged to stay home. There's some interesting language in the order. As a lawyer, I find that says, if you're a vulnerable person, you should tell your employer that. Of course, there's no protection for an employee who does that, but you should let them know so they can plan accordingly. Non-essential travel is still prohibited. Telework is continuing to be encouraged where it's practicable, and employers are encouraged to develop a phase plan to return employees to the office when it's reasonable. In the later phases, we're going to be talking about Rising Tide's plan here as an example of how that's going to work in a minute. Phase 2 will have bars, movie theaters, and nightclubs open at 50% capacity. Restaurants, gyms, and retail operating at 75% capacity. Employers are supposed to begin phasing employees back into the office. State parks will be fully operational with bathrooms, and possibly overnight stays allowed. Travel is permitted. Vulnerable populations will continue to have that language about they should socially distance and continue to have no protection whatsoever for their jobs. And local governments will be permitted to resume in-person meetings with no more than 50 people in attendance. Then we get to phase 3, and everything reopens and businesses are asked to facilitate limited social distancing, but there's not a lot of guidelines around what that means. But you can read it all in the task force report. The movement between phases is supposed to be based on science and on in terms of numbers of infections, rates of infections, percentages increase or decrease over time. But the governor, as I don't know why I'm having trouble running this today. So we're here, phase 1. So right now in downtown St. Pete, we have restaurants open. The city has expanded where restaurants can put tables out on the sidewalks to try and give the restaurants some relief and make it economically feasible to open at 25%. Retail is using a variety of tools to try and maintain that 25% capacity. For instance, Chocolat in our base of our building has a sign on the door that says only 2 people admitted at any one time in their stores. So retail is trying, to manage it. If you go to large box retailers, there are lots of X's on the floor that many people are ignoring, but there are there. So that's where we are. So just as an example of what a reopening phase 1 plan can look like, and this is getting sent out to our members today, the full document, but this is kind of the highlights. We are going to be reopening, effective kind of slowly this week and definitely next week. So all of our members will be welcome back in the space. Pre-registered guests will be permitted with limitations that are outlined below. No events will be scheduled, and only meetings with up to 5 people, including the member, would be permitted in any of our common spaces. So staff will be using masks at the front. See, like my mask, isn't it pretty? That's a picture of me and one of our members, JC, who came in to get his mail, and we were properly socially distanced through a glass wall. We'll be using masks at the front desk and when interacting with members, and we'll practice social distancing measures as directed in the government guidelines. We are providing disposable masks and gloves at the co-work space at the front door. We are recommending them to be used, but we are not going to require them to be used because the governor has not given the authority for anyone to require masks to be used in the state of Florida. Lysol and antibacterial wipes are available throughout the space. Individual hand sanitizer bottles are available at every desk and table. Hand sanitizer dispensers are available at the entrances and in the staircase doors. We have disposable plates and cups and utensils available. We've increased the spacing in the hot desking area, and I'll show you, there's a picture later in the slide that'll show you what that looks like. So we've reduced the capacity to guarantee that we can meet the social distancing requirements if people sit in the chairs that we have left. We are requiring visitors to pre-register, and that pre-register includes an electronic acknowledgement that they've not traveled internationally within 14 days. They haven't been exposed to COVID, and they haven't been around anyone with a acute respiratory illness in the last 14 days. Of course, that's the honor system, but that's what we're gonna do. At this time, we have not got access to a scanning thermometer. If we get a scanning thermometer, the governor is recommending that we do that at the gate at the front door. If we can find one, we will probably add that to our process as people come in and not let people in with a fever, obviously. Any signs of illness or confirmed cases within our members' family, we're going to be asking our members to let us know. We will we will also be asking those members who they saw in the space and doing the contact tracing to let other members know if they've been exposed. Hopefully we won't have to deal with that, but we wanted to have a process in place to allow for it. Our meeting room and phone room reservation schedules are going to include 15-minute cleaning breaks between users so that we can ensure that we've sanitized the spaces as much as possible. The kitchens and bathroom surfaces, handles will be wiped in elevator buttons, and anything that's a high touch surface will be wiped down 4 times a day by our staff. And we're going to be having signs up that members are requested to use hand sanitizer before touching some of these high touch common areas in the kitchen, the coffee maker, the sinks, those kind of things. The space is going to be deep cleaned every other weekend. Marie, I know that was one of your questions. And our regular twice weekly evening cleaning provided by the building will continue as well. I met with the cleaner yesterday. We had a lot of discussion about what is being recommended by the CDC in terms of cleaning mechanisms. And later on, there's a link to that if you want to read what the CDC is recommending. All tours, again, we're limiting access. So tours are going to be scheduled and likely in times where we have the least members there so that we can limit the number of people in the space right now to maintain the social distancing. They will also be asked to confirm the same 3 things that our guests are going to be asked to confirm. So I went through all that detail because I think for us, we're a co-working space. You know, basically we are a place where multiple people gather with lots of background, different backgrounds, and we want to make sure everybody feels safe. So here's a picture of what the new and improved front desk room looks like with these are 6-foot tables. So people can sit on either end of them. The smaller tables have 1 person seated. So it's obviously reduced our capacity a great deal. But, we think that's what is required as we read phase 1 to include. When we get to phase 2, when the governor declares that we've gone to phase 2, we will begin to sell day passes again on a limited number based on our capacity and seating. And meetings up to 8 people will be allowed in the conference rooms. And then the times that we offer tours will slowly expand over that period of time. Then we divided what the governor's calling phase 3. We kind of phased it in 2 phases, phase 3 and phase 4, because we want to continue to watch carefully as things are going on based on viral cycles and everything else. So based on what the governor has said in phase 3, which would be basically a wide open reopening, we're going to phase that in 2 steps. First, doing limited events and walk-in tours, seeing how that goes. And then eventually, when we feel like we're ready and we can manage it in the space, capacity will be increased back to the prior to COVID numbers, and larger events will be able to be resumed. So that's kind of how we're doing it. But I want to say that every reopening needs to be specific to a business type. So here's the message I just got on my text from my hairdresser. Basically, they are going to require masks, and they'll be wearing masks, and they'll be disinfecting their stations, and they will also do home visits, so you don't have to go to the salon. And I think this kind of highlights the issue of each business has to determine what is safe for both their employees and for the employer, what makes sense. And I think, depending on what kind of business you have, that may be a different thing. A brick and mortar retail store may do something like Chocolat has done and limit people in the space. This hair salon that's personal services that obviously can't social distance and cut your hair at the same time, they're attempting to do it using masks and cleaning. So it's just, I think, something we're each going to be dealing with over time. So let's get practical about all of this. Obviously, doing all those things will make us safer. It will also make me, as the owner of Rising Tide, a whole lot less profitable. And so I wanted to kind of walk through that, because I think every small business is going to kind of be doing these calculations as you determine when to reopen and how to reopen. So basically, kind of in full transparency, we had 30% of our membership during April and May either quit or downgrade their memberships. So already our membership base is much lower than it was pre-COVID. We are not going to be opening to the capacity we had before. So the decreased hot desk capacity means we can offer fewer memberships. We aren't going to be doing day passes, which is a source of revenue for us that's pretty steady. And we're not going to be doing events, so no space rental to anyone else. At the same time, we're going to be doing more frequent cleaning. We're going to single package snacks and providing PPE so that we can limit, again, contact among members and possible cross-contamination. And all of that is going to increase our operating costs. In phase 2, again, it's kind of the same story. In phase 3, it begins to get a little better in terms of revenue. But we still are going to have increased operations costs. And I'm thinking that those increased operations costs by phase 4 will become the new normal, because members will come to expect that kind of service and that kind of cleanliness going forward. And that, I talked about that a couple weeks ago, about how I think that the biggest change for work environments is going to be an awareness on the part of both employees or small businesses, if you're in a co-work space, that safety does require a little distance, and it requires a little bit more focus on like daytime, day-to-day management of sanitation. So for us, one of the key questions then is, what's the timing on all these transitions? Now, the governor has said it could be weeks instead of months. With my science hat on, I kind of respectfully disagree with that analysis. I think, based on everything I'm hearing, that they're talking about going to phase 2 by June 1. I think that they may do that, but they may have to then go backwards a little bit, because there should be, based on normal viral cycles, a second spike in infection that happens, roughly 3 to 4 weeks after things begin to reopen in a serious way. So I am kind of in my own head planning that we might get to phase 2 in June. It might be July, but I think we're going to stay in phase 2 for a really long time before we get to phase 3, despite what the governor says, because I don't think the testing that is the phase 3 is kind of predicated on adequate vaccines or testing so that we can actually tell how many people in the population have it. While we have radically scaled up our testing in Florida, we are nowhere close to being able to test the entire population, and just the capacity building to do that will take some time. So I'm thinking the rest of the year in phase 2, but I may be wrong. I would love it if I was wrong, but the worrywart and the science person in me says this is how the math is going to work out on the timing, which adds to the financial challenge, because that means a long time of operating with no revenues or limited revenues. So basically, here's a statement of the obvious. If revenues are going down and expenses are going up, you have 2 options. You can either create new streams of revenue, or you can decrease non-essential expenditures. We're at Rising Tide, we're kind of going to both options, option A and option B, to try and keep going. I think thinking about new streams of revenues for businesses is challenging, but I think the thing that has been helpful to me is to not think about my problem, which is I need revenue, and try and think more effectively about what problems has COVID caused for my members and others in the community that I can solve with the tools that I have. So really a focus on customer as opposed to a focus on bad things have happened and we have to deal with it. So that has led us to kind of go to a digital version, which is why we're all talking on Zoom right now, because prior to COVID, we didn't do this. And it's also had us take a hard look at expenditures and how we're operating in terms of both personnel and just regular day-to-day expenses. So there's a picture of me, which if you could see me right now, I look exactly like that again, except I'm wearing a different shirt. We've invested in things like lights so that I don't look as old as I really am, I hope. Anyway, it doesn't help with the highlights, but it does help with the face shadows, I am told. So, and the fancy box is my sit-stand desk at my desk because I don't have a sit-stand desk. So anyway, that's an example of kind of investment that we're making to try and improve the quality of what we're doing as we try and figure out in our revenue stream what digital content will be meaningful and valuable to our members and to others in the community. And eventually we hope to be able to monetize that through either teaching courses or having series that have value that people would be willing to pay to attend. Obviously right now, none of our content is gated. We do have special content for our members only roundtables, but we're in the learning mode of trying to figure out how does this work and how does that play into our business model. Again, another priority for us in the pivot is getting members comfortable with coming back to the space. And we're investing time and effort and thoughtfulness into trying to make sure that we can offer a safe space that people feel comfortable working in and can continue to get value out of Rising Tide. We have had certain members here who were essential businesses that have operated here nonstop throughout the virus. So we have not all ever gone completely dark, but it has been a little bit like a ghost town, enough so that we could actually restain the floors in the third floor offices without a problem. So, because there was enough room in the main part, we could move all the furniture out and actually do the floors. So, and then our last priority is, and it's driven by the fact we've already signed the lease and the walls are down in the space on the second floor. We are committed to expanding to the second floor, despite the fact that our membership is down. So the challenge there is figuring out how to market office and what the sensitivities will be of people who are looking for private office and co-work space post-COVID, because we're going to have to market pretty extensively to get that done. I took a course by a company called eSimplified Training that really gave this image, which is not rocket science, but it was kind of nice to see it put down in a single place. And I made the image, but it's based on what they said in the course. And basically, they suggested that once you identify your priorities in terms of your pivot and how you're going to do that, and so in our case, it's the three things I just talked about, then you evaluate all of your expenses on this matrix to determine what you have to pay and what you don't have to pay, with the goal of significantly reducing your expenditures on things that are not essential to surviving through the pivot. So the two quadrants that are easy are the urgent and essential quadrant, and the not urgent and not essential quadrant. Those are easy yes and no's. The other two quadrants are a little bit harder, because if they're not urgent but they're essential based on your pivot, you should spend money on them. But there are some things that are going to be urgent but not essential to your plan. So, an example of that would be a not urgent but essential on our plate will be some marketing costs, because we have got to spend marketing costs to get people back in the space. On this really tough ones, the urgent and non-essential, we've been having conversations with our vendors and creditors to make sure that we can maximize the amount of time that we have to pay expenditures to try and spread the money out as best we can. Those are tough conversations. Nobody wants to have them. As a business owner, it's awful to pick up the phone and call another small business and say, hey, can we talk about how we're going to do payments? Can we talk about reducing services? Can we talk about? Nobody wants to hear that, because it's a ripple effect to their business and everything. But I have found that everyone recognizes the importance of continuing to function. So they haven't been as tough as I thought some of those calls would be. It is hard to make yourself spend money on things that are not urgent but are essential while you're dealing with things where you're getting calls saying, pay this, pay this, pay this, and instead you're spending your money on something else. But there is a logic to it, in the sense that if you survive, then you're going to have a lot longer time to spend your money on other things and grow your business. And if you don't do these things, your business may not survive through that time frame. We're lucky at Rising Tide. We only did lose 30% of our membership, or reduce their membership level. I'm on some co-work kind of industry groups, and there are some co-work spaces that literally went down to no people. So we feel very thankful and grateful that we're sitting where we are. and that we're well capitalized and able to continue to do the expansion and all of those things. So we see this for us as a bump in the road, not the end all of the situation, but certainly recognize that for some in our industry, it is more than that. So anyway, I wanted to also share, kind of in addition to that analysis, some additional resources if you are thinking about reopening or having to deal with customers in a different way. These will all, obviously the links are all in the PowerPoint that you'll get later today. The CDC reopening guidance, and I will say this about that because I'm a lawyer, I've read them both. I've also read the associated regulations. They are inconsistent. So you kind of have to pick your poison as to what you think is the most advantageous and effective for your type of business. I also added this Zenefits checklist for employers, which really is talking more about HR stuff, which I didn't talk about at all in here because we haven't made any changes. We have had staff changes, but those staff changes have not been directly derived from COVID. They've just happened. So, but for people that are looking at either having to downscale their employees or having to change their way they work or bring them back from remote, this might be a useful resource. And with that, I would really like to open it up for discussion. Marie and Ann, I don't know if anybody else joined, I can't tell, but I'm gonna stop sharing so we can see each other. And I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking and what you're doing and all of that kind of stuff. Whoop, I can't hear you, Marie. There you go.
You can hear me? Can you hear me? No.
Just a little, you're quiet, but I can hear you. I think you're coming through your earphones maybe, but
well, hold on.
and I can turn the volume up on my machine too. Oh, it's already all the way up. There you go. Oh, well.
That's better? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little better. Yeah, I'll listen carefully.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, you know, we're doing fine. We're interested in coming back, but we definitely fall into that, you know, don't feel safe category. Trying to communicate with Jen about having the office cleaned was sort of, you know, part of that. Mm-hmm. We ended up coming in this weekend to clean it ourselves. Did Thompson tell you?
Yes, he told me that he saw you. And like I said, we had a new cleaner come in because our Margie, who has been our cleaner before, has a vulnerable husband and is not working right now. So we have a young man who is working right now, laid off from cleaning hotels, you know, so he has started his own business doing cleaning. So he will be in, and we're basically trying to follow the CDC guidelines in terms of cleaning procedures. But we'll be doing that every other weekend, like the deep cleans, and then the daily cleanings of just touch surfaces and just basic daily, you know, cleanliness we'll be handling, plus the office cleaners, which, you know, empty the trash basically. But we would love to be able to clean your office if you want us to. You just, with the deep cleaning, if you just leave your door unlocked, closed but unlocked, I've told him that any office that is closed but unlocked should be cleaned. Okay. So if you want to do that, we can definitely do that. And if you want us to unlock it, we can do that.
Okay. Yeah, Thompson made sure he had a key. Okay. But you know, we can unlock it because we're not leaving, you know, equipment and stuff. We can do that on the weekends. Yeah. It's only rising tide people right now. Right. And it will be only rising tide people. Like I said, the only non-rising tide people, members have to get guests pre-approved, and we've had 2 guests in the last 2 months come in, and they went straight into the conference room, and we sanitized the conference room afterwards. They weren't in the common space. They didn't go to coffee. You know, we just kind of tried to keep them controlled in one area so we could clean that area and have them leave. I don't know, as more members come back, how frequent that will be, but we're definitely going to try and limit it so that they have to go into our public conference rooms so that we can
manage the cleanliness of that piece. And then, like I said, tours, we're going to be limiting our tours to the hours where it is least likely that members are there. So early in the morning or after kind of typical working hours, so that we don't have unknown people in there, and then we can clean after we give the tour, to kind of control that. That's our best plan so far. If you can get your hands on a thermometer, the scanning thermometer, tell me where it is, because I haven't been able to buy one. That's the only thing that we haven't done. We also have had trouble we have hand sanitizer everywhere in these little bottles, but the ones by the doors, the inserts for the sanitizer contraptions, the inserts are sold out right now. So we're working on the alternate workaround of how we're going to do that low tech with bottles of sanitizer, that we somehow rig into the push thing, but we haven't. They have these little square things that nobody is selling right now for the Purell hand sanitizers.
Oh, I was like, I have those, the Purell fillers.
Yeah, you have some? Can I buy them?
Yeah, I mean, I could even locate where I got, hold on a second, right back.
Okay.
How about 3 daughters that are making it?
Right, it's the particular one that, hold on.
Yeah, that's it, I think. The one that it goes in that. It's like goes in the ADX 12 or something like that.
Yeah. I'll look at where I got it. There's a cleaning company that has been sending me supplies. So
okay, cool. Yeah, because if I can get that has been a hang up. It's not available on any of the online things, and Apex, which is our office supply people, don't have it.
Gotcha.
So that would be, that's kind of, as we're ticking through our efforts, that's what we're going to do. And we don't know how quickly people are going to come back either. You know what I mean? Like we know there will be some people that will immediately come back because they've been calling saying, when can I come back? But then there are a lot of people like you that are saying, I'm not sure if I want to come back. We have had a staff change. I don't know if Thompson told you that Jen's no longer with us. So I'm sorry she didn't answer your emails, but you were not the only one that happened to. So, anyway, so for the time being, you get me, myself, and I, and Tina, and Tom, and then Juan and Tristan, who, the front desk folks. And everybody's stepping up and doing their part and making it all work as best we can. So, and we all have we have handy dandy, beautiful masks. My mask today is red. We have different ones. We do, but like I said, we have, for anybody who comes in, especially guests, we have single baggies of disposable masks and gloves in different sizes that people can grab and use. And we'll continue to provide that, as long as all this is going on. So hopefully people will choose to do that.
So I just wrote down hand sanitizer and thermometer, but I just want to make sure like the only people on the meeting were Rising Tide people, and I can see.
No, Anne is from the law firm, and Juan is Juan, our community coordinator. So I think that's it. Yeah.
Our circumstances, we have somebody who is immunocompromised and someone who's living with someone who's going through chemo, who is clearly immunocompromised. So, we went in this weekend to see like, okay, what is it? Gina and I went in and, what does it look like? How are things set up? And, we're just more cautious than most people. We talked to Thompson, we had our masks on. Yeah. He didn't have a mask on, that's fine. I could not get 6 feet away from that guy to save my life. And I think people just aren't going to have the same level of concern unless they are in that situation where they live with someone who's having chemo treatment or they're immunocompromised. And I don't know how we get, as a group past that. Like I've been reading like about all the things that you guys are doing. And then I'm seeing pictures where clearly people are sitting together outside of our office. You're over here, but everybody else is together. I'm thinking, I can't have my people come into that environment. That's our challenge, I think.
Yeah, and I think in fairness to Thompson, he was staining floors, so
he was
he was pretty
working.
miserable. So I don't think he was his best self, because he gave his sister the opportunity to take Mother's Day off, which meant he had to do it by himself.
That was very nice.
So please forgive him for not being thoughtful about all that. We did have yesterday in our staff meeting, we had a discussion about the importance of masks and the distancing, and we've pulled, I know it looked like in that picture people weren't 6 feet apart, but we've actually pulled chairs so that short of them squishing the chairs together, they can't get closer than 6 feet, and there's just not, there's not chairs. That doesn't say that people will be careful. I will say, walking around downtown St. Pete, I'm the only person wearing a mask as I walk to and from my car. It does not, it's interesting because it's different in Tampa. More people, like even in my neighborhood, people walking their dogs are like wearing masks and stuff. So I just think culturally it's kind of, or maybe it's because the people who have come out already are the people that are least worried. You know what I mean? Like the people that are more worried are still at home, not coming out.
I think that is the case. This is Anne. I'm still here. I just am not visually appropriate this morning, but after exercising and all. But we were having a discussion, how many people are actually going out there? How many people are going to restaurants? And what are they really thinking? Do they think that this isn't a problem anymore? And so my feeling is there's a lot of people that are very much staying away, but the people that show up, they're the people that make the news and make the photos. So that doesn't answer your question, Marie, about making sure that the environments you're going to are safe. But it does, I think, personally, there's a lot of people that are still cognizant of how dangerous it still is and are staying home.
Right. For instance, Anne, I'm in the space mostly due to the fact that we had the change in staff. So I need to be in the space, but Anne and Tina are still working from home, so it's, I think you have to kind of decide. I mean, we've had this conversation in my house as well, because Amy has to travel for our businesses down on the island. She has to, either she doesn't see us for the foreseeable future, or she has to travel. So we've made the option of traveling like once a month or twice a month, which is risky, but it was the best decision we could make given our situation. We're all relatively healthy, so, but we're not seeing my mom as a result of that, because my mom is immune compromised. And so we're just not, we're standing literally in her front yard and talking over the fence, in terms of seeing her. So I want you to feel, everybody has to make their own decision, but I really do want you to know that it is top of my mind to try and make it safe, as safe as I can make it. Today we had 3 members come in that are upstairs. We have 2 members that are there downstairs right now, the same people that have been there pretty much the whole time. And they're all spread out and socially distancing in terms of, now I didn't go in the conference room when one of them had a meeting in the conference room. The 2 of them went into the conference room together to meet. I did not look over the window to make sure they sat.
It's on them.
Yeah, but we do know, I do know that we clean, we're cleaning the conference room after that. We're going to have little signs, like on the phone booth won't matter to you because you don't have to use them, but we're going to have little signs on the phone booth that are like, clean me, I'm clean me, so that when somebody walks out of the phone booth, we're going to ask them to flip it to clean me, so we know that we need to clean it before somebody else goes back in there. Again, we'll see how compliant people are. You won't be able to forget, though, because there literally are these teeny little bottles of hand sanitizer throughout the space.
I saw them. Yeah.
So, and the idea is we want people to take them home. We want them to carry them with them, and use them wherever they go. And we will provide more. Like, we have hundreds of those bottles of sanitizer. So but again, yeah, and how people are going to behave and what they're going to do, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, I hope to see you soon. We miss you, but we want everybody to be safe too. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. I mean, we miss being there. Yeah, I did book. I have a big funder presentation. I booked the conference room at the end of the month, but usually I get a confirmation, but I didn't get a confirmation.
That's we've got blocks on everything because we are evaluating how many people are putting in the room and all of that kind of stuff. So what you should get is a call from Thompson or Juan or me in the near future. I don't have that one on my list yet, but to say, hey, how many people are you going to need in the room? How many guests, where are they coming from? Will they have flown in? All of those. If they're flying in from New York, we have bigger concerns than if they are flying in from, Idaho. But maybe Idaho has a problem. I don't know, but who knows? But those are the kind of questions we're asking for anybody. That's why we want everybody to pre-register, so we can kind of wean out and discourage people coming in that are higher risk and present a higher risk. So do you remember what day it is that you scheduled that for?
The morning of May 28th.
Okay. And is it you using the conference room, or you have lots of people coming?
No, it's me and Charlie, but the funders are in New York City, so we're doing it by Zoom. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then that's no problem. We'll just make sure that you should get a confirmation by the end of today then, because we'll block it. Okay.
Cool.
And release more accurately, we'll release the block and actually confirm it. So,
okay.
Yeah. So anyway, Anne, you have any thoughts? I mean, I know you and I have talked about this every day for the last 2 months. But
no, I really liked your chart on essential and urgent, non-essential, non-urgent. I think that's a really simple way to think about everything you do. And I listened to a webinar yesterday that was regarding new home builders and how this is a opportunity for them, because people selling their homes and people buying used homes don't want to go in them, right? So sellers are taking their homes off the market and buyers are not really buying them because they don't want to go in them. So it's a big market for new home sales. But they were talking about how you really have to totally pivot to address who the consumer is today. And it really related to changing your whole thought process on how you reach out. And in that case, they were talking about virtual tours of homes and texting, instead of just emails. But the whole thing was, think about who your customer is and what they're looking for now. And when you're thinking about your own safety concerns, what are they thinking about their own safety concerns? And how can you market to that need that they have for services that are still essentially virtual and easy to access, and puts you in the top level of people that can get them the information quick and can help them quickly. And so I've been kind of putting all this together about as we move forward, what's essential for this new future that we're planning, and how we are pivoting ourselves as a firm and as a company. And also at the same time thinking about what our customers are really looking for and how we can pivot to support them better, and then hopefully get a leg up on all the other competition.
Yeah, it's definitely it's funny because all of my businesses have been affected in different ways. So I feel like I'm pivoting so much, I'm turning in circles, but the labs, our issue has been, we go into public spaces to test for drinking water. So a lot of the condominiums, the test points were actually in apartments, And so we had to work with the government to restructure where we're testing to get them out, to limit those contacts for the safety of our people, as well as the safety of the, because we don't want any of our staff to be inadvertently super spreading by going from place to place to place down there. And then we've had the issue with, even with like our commercial divers and those kind of places, of going, bringing boats into marinas and taking boats out of marinas and, doing all of that stuff, going to dive shops. We have mostly our own gear, but we normally fill our tanks, with other people. And we've had to go to, acquiring our own system so that we don't have to, interact in any kind of way with a company where we can't control what they've, who's touched that, the equipment and how it's being maintained and all that. So, I don't think there's going to be a business on the planet that is not affected in some ways. And some people are doing really well with it, and it's worked out for their business model. Zing Drones is now in South Florida delivering sandwiches in their little box, that attaches to a drone. So yay them, you know what I mean? And then one of our marketing members has said that her business has gone through the roof because she's specializing in marketing how to explain how you are dealing with COVID. So she's helping them do plans of how they're going to address it and speak to their customer on that subject. So we're just going to have to do the best we can do, I think. And for us, the pivot is hugely financial, obviously, but the bigger pivot is maintaining value and creating value for small businesses in a time when people are more likely to want to be distant than want to be together. You know what I mean? But our whole model is based on bringing people together. So it's a tough place. I would love to get your opinion, Marie, on what kind of digital content would be helpful or not, or if there is any that would be helpful to you. We have coming up this week, we have the second in the social media series. We have a virtual happy hour that's open. And then for members, we have the remote roundtables Monday through Thursday. And on Fridays, I do the good news, which is about technology and exciting things that are happening despite of or in relation to COVID. So we have all of that kind of programming out there, but what do you need? What do you want? Like, or do you just want to be off Zoom? Like that's.
No, I even have a nice background. I don't have it up today, but it has our logo on it. Like, not that you guys weren't worthy of that, but I was like, I don't want to cover up the window right now. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that you guys are just ahead of us. The things that I've joined were the things that we really needed, which was figuring out the loans, figuring out the PPP, figuring out, which we got in the first round, which was amazing because, in Pinellas County, not that many people did. Figuring out the human resources things, do you furlough? Do you we were in that small business crisis mode, and we stayed in that until recently. And you guys primarily moved out of that, but I joined this because it's so every little chart and link that you send, I follow, and this part of moving your business and maintaining it and keeping it safe, we're still really heavily in that mode. So I take advantage of all of those, and anything that relate, we're not a big marketing. Mm-hmm. Our services really aren't marketed, and it's just kind of not that kind of business.
Right.
But some of the tech stuff.
I'm jealous. These days I would love to be like, yeah, we don't really have to market. We just have to.
It's just not that kind of thing. But we are pivoting. Like we spent time. We were the people who helped them identify what people in Rikers Island could be released from New York City.
Right.
State court orders of reducing jail populations in New Jersey, like that kind of stuff. So, we're definitely moving into here's the services that we can provide. The tech stuff has been helpful. It's a lot. So but learning about the different things where we can collaborate with our team and work with our clients has been helpful. I mean, we're simple, I guess, in that way.
That's helpful. That's, that's what we're trying to gauge, and going forward, trying to gauge what we're going to be developing, and like what we had thought pre-COVID, we had an opportunity to work with some nonprofits and develop basically a cohort of artists who want to focus on developing their businesses. So we're looking at whether we can deliver that online versus in person so that it doesn't get further delayed, and what would that look like? Because a lot of it was also mentoring and advisory, like using existing successful artists to help mentor, and like how would we set that up? And so so we're looking at stuff that'll be very targeted to specific audiences, but then we're also looking, obviously our members are priority for us in terms of giving value, so trying to figure out what skill sets do you need right now that maybe you didn't need 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago. But over time, one of the things that's happened is on the second floor, Niall Nickel, our member Niall, I think he might be your ambassador. I'm not sure if he is or not. But Niall is a experienced podcaster, and he has all the podcasting equipment, and he also has video, like green screen equipment, and he has volunteered to bring that in. So we're going to be setting up a video recording studio with green screen and a podcasting room, so that members who need to make content, because they're now delivering more content through those channels, will have easier, less expensive access to do that stuff that looks professional. So we're working on same thing, backdrops, backgrounds, all of that kind of stuff that will be services that we can offer. We'll see if that is valuable or not to people. I mean, I know I'm learning more every day about this stuff. I've invested in makeup. Okay.
So it's desperate times, right?
Yeah, no, I'm just like, wow, look at that. That's like really bad. So, but hence the message from my hairdresser, because I was going, Mayday, when are you helping? Please help me. So my hair is very, very long right now, but yeah. So I think we just have to see what we're gonna do. And just keep in touch, and if you can send me that cleaning company contact, I'm all over that, because I spent an hour yesterday going to every possible resource I thought might have it, restaurant supplies, like all those places, and none of them had it. So
I mean, they could be out by now, but I've had really luck, like when it was very difficult to get paper towels and gloves and masks, I got them all from
right. Yeah, we've been able to get that stuff partially because in the Virgin Islands, we're outside the export zone. So Amy's been able to bring them. The stuff is a lot easier to get outside the United States. And so she's been able to bring up unlimited amounts of masks and hand sanitizer and, toilet paper towels, It's kind of an odd reversal of 2017 when we were bringing everything into the Virgin Islands for the hurricanes. Now we're bringing everything out of the Virgin Islands to here. But
do you have a pulse oximeter? Because I got some of those.
You do?
Yeah, those were really hard to find. I know, I got a little COVID crazy.
You did?
No, but not really. I just like,
Well, if you've got employees that have specific, specific health issues, despite the fact that the state of Florida isn't really doing anything about that, from a governmental perspective, you're being a good employer and you're trying to protect your employees. So, I mean, that's a challenge, because you can't change their situation. And really, if they're vulnerable, they should not be leaving home yet, period. Yeah. The end. Yeah.
I think that's why not all of us will come back. But I am trying to get it to where like what do we need?
Yeah.
There's times we need to be able to collaborate, and being able to come back to the office just some would be really helpful.
And we started that way before we had the staff transition. I would come in like once every week and a half, and we would do we'd take the water room and each person would take a table so that we were completely spread out, and then collaborate using the whiteboard and because it was just more meaningful than doing it. I mean, you can collaborate on Zoom, but there's a certain level of you just need to be able to really wave your hands at each other and stuff. Now that Jen is no longer here, it's just about leadership and having to make sure that things happen and 6 feet distance happens, and all of that stuff. So
I really appreciate you guys doing these.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we will have, the next one is, I think, in 2 weeks. And, it will be continuing to talk about the business modeling and what does that look like, and, kind of what's the next evolution? Are we in phase 2 yet? Like what's going on? Because I'm trying to keep, and have we gotten version 4 of the federal relief, and what does that look like, and what opportunities does that create? And hopefully, I look forward to the day that I don't spend every single day talking about COVID, but I have literally talked about COVID every single day, both in my family and at work, since March 13th, basically. I mean, I flew back from DC and had to immediately go into quarantine because my daughter had been exposed. And so then I was on, because she had a classmate that came from England with it and infected pretty much the entire 11th grade of Berkeley. Yeah. Wow. So, but luckily Katie didn't get that sick, but we were on full quarantine and dealing with that. And that was when I was doing my first pivoting videos. And
yes.
I was like, yeah. I'm seeming calm, but really I'm not so calm. But I looked back, I actually looked at the recording of the first one and I was like, wow, I seem much more together than I really was, because I was really like, oh my God. I had just followed all my employees in the Virgin Islands. All this stuff had happened, and I'm like talking about it like, oh, and then we do this, and then we do this. And I'm like, wow. But it's getting better. I mean, a little bit better. So, anyway, so please send me the link to the cleaning either in Slack or just send me an email, and I will reach out to them, because that's, like I said, we have hand sanitizer. We just don't, that we bought hoping that we could figure out a way to rig a thing. Right. But those things are so specific to that shape of bottle that we can't get it. The whole point is to have limited touching, and, if you have to bang on the thing, that's not useful.
Yeah, I will definitely locate where I got it from and send it to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
nice
you
seeing you. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.